What's going on today, Internet? Selfish here with Retrospect. The Miyoo A30 just keeps on getting better, and now we have Spruce 3.0, which makes it the most optimized experience of possibly any Miyoo device out there to date. Now, that's going to be controversial, but in this video, we're going to take a look at that, as well as take a look at a button install, faceplate, and a little casey type thing that goes around the outside. I don't know what you call it, but that's fine. I will throw some chapters in here in case you want to skip around, but I'd recommend watching the whole thing. But that being said, let's take a look. With this Miyoo A30, I decided to go with kind of a greenish theme to match Spruce, because when I think of Spruce, I think of a pine tree. So we went with the greenish theme. Just take a look over the device here real quick. Just check everything out. Notice there's only 4 screws on the back, so that makes it a little bit easier to pull apart. There are going to be some spots in this that do speed up, especially when I'm using a screwdriver, just to get things out of the way. I don't want to make this a 2-hour video. And here we are. We're just going to remove those 4 screws on the back. Pretty simple. After that, all you have to do is pry it apart. I tried to use my non-existent fingernails. I tried to use this little pry tool, but I did find at the end of the day, the best tool to get this open is the old rusty trusty guitar pick. That seemed to work the best for me. Kind of a thickish one, but yeah, get that thing on there. Now you're going to want to remove the battery. Just unplug it from here so you don't wreck these cables, especially because that motherboard is going to have to come out in order to put the buttons in. There, we're just going to put the triggers and shoulders and stuff off to the side. One thing I did notice right away is there's only 4 screws that hold this together, and the joystick is not screwed in at all on this handheld. One thing I didn't do was actually replace the joystick here, which I normally do in these builds, mostly because all the sticks I have are TMR sticks right now, and they're a little bit too tall, so I need to get a hold of GillyKit and get some more regular Hall Effect sticks, and then we'll be able to do that. Now you just need to pry the board up. Like I said, there is no screws there, so it's just a couple little spots. You can kind of see the tabs there. You got to kind of work around those. And then be careful when you're pulling it out to make sure, because your Type-C charging port and stuff are going to be sticking through it, so just make sure you don't yank them off. If you were going to remove and replace the D-pad, this is how you would do it. Just do that rubber on the left side and then take it out, put a new one in. I'm actually not going to replace it on this. I do like the way the D-pad feels on this handheld for some reason. I know some people do, some people don't. I actually kind of like it. Also, kind of fits in with my theme. But here we are, same thing on the other side. Take the buttons out, and then we are going to use these beautiful green buttons. They're like an emerald kind of green. It's going for that Spruce theme, like I said, but these green buttons are from Sakura mods, and they do make some awesome, awesome buttons. I'll put a link down on my thingamabob if you need to pick some up. And here we go, just putting this back on. There are 2 little tabs that you need to line up and then kind of push everything in, it all lines up. Really easy job, really. We're going to put that board back in here. Now, again, be careful of that Type-C port, just to make sure that it doesn't break off or anything when you're putting it in. You do have to line it up on the hole first, and then you are obviously going to go around and you have to get those tabs back in so it holds it down. That's kind of the typical Miyoo way of doing construction, so it's not really that surprising. We're going to put the shoulders and triggers back on here right now. They are inline, so they are pretty easy. They just kind of stack up together. The only part that actually stacks on top of each other is the post for them. And then we are going to turn around and we are going to plug things back in. So the first thing here is the screen to the motherboard. We'll get that plugged back in real quick. You just got to kind of line it all up. Sometimes I use my fingers or a combination of that and tweezers. But then once you kind of flatten her down, and then you just need to push that tab. So pretty easy on that aspect of the whole thing. Next, we need to get this joystick back in there, so we'll pop that bad boy in. And I try to line it up as best as I could to begin with. I did realize, though, the cable is pretty short, so it has a hard time kind of moving around, but you can just line it up like I did, and then just put it back in. And again, this is not screwed in, so just make sure it's in there tight. Because the body and the battery are actually what are going to hold that joystick from moving around. Now, as far as this goes here, we're just going to take it and we are going to figure it out and line up the holes here for the battery. And I ended up using my fingers, I think, here in the end, and just to get it in to begin with, and then I'll use my tweezers to actually do the plugging part. But it is kind of a really short cable to work with, so you got to be careful. You don't want to break the cable. Obviously, you don't want to lose battery power, but you also need to kind of make it work. So holding it off to the side like that kind of works the best. And then push it in with your tweezers. Make sure that that joystick is still holding on and that your shoulder buttons are in the right spot. And once you do that and everything lines back up, you should be able to just pop her back together. If you feel like you need to use too much force, you have something not lined up correctly, so just go back and see what isn't lined up correctly, or if the board isn't all the way down, you will run into that problem as well. I just went and checked to make sure all the buttons and everything felt like they were supposed to, like they did before I kind of put it all together. Looking at this now, maybe I should do some matching shoulder buttons to the face buttons. I'm not sure. I wanted to keep it pretty simple. Initially, when I was starting this project, was because I had a color of this that I didn't particularly care for, but then I gave it to a buddy, and I ended up actually getting another one of these right before I gave it to my buddy, so I already had the parts for it, and so I said, screw it, I'm going to do it on the black one. Even though this one I was intending on keeping black, I mean, it gets a little bit blacker, I guess, with the new faceplate we're going to put on there. So just screw that in. I use a hand screwdriver when screwing those back in because it is plastic on plastic. I don't want to ruin anything. Put the SD card back in, just make sure everything works. Now that we know everything's up and working, we are actually going to check on this faceplate. So this faceplate's kind of dope. I got it all custom made. I'll put a link to that Etsy shop in the thingamabob as well. Reached out to him, I even got him to put Miyoo on the back of the case for me, which isn't part of the original design. So pretty cool, guy's really awesome. Really easy to work with, so definitely hit that guy up if this is something you want to do. So you got to pry around this. Be very careful. So what I'm actually using is a razor blade. And I don't want to scratch the device at all, so that's why I'm holding it sideways as, horizontally to the handheld as I possibly can, because I don't want to end up having scratches even underneath where this plate's going to go. And then I had to go through and just meticulously remove all the extra little glue that was stuck on the handheld, so I could add more glue with this little sticker here. Now, I thought that you'd be able to put it on the handheld and then put the cover on, or the faceplate on from there, and I think that's actually what you're supposed to do, but I was having a hell of a time working with it, so I decided, screw it, I'm just going to put it to the faceplate itself, which, I mean, it didn't get 100% coverage, even though this thing should have given it that, because, some of the gluey, stickery stuff moved around a little bit, but my goodness, you are never going to get the thing off of my handheld, so the A30 is holding on to this thing forever. I think it even holds better than the one that came stock. And interestingly enough, he actually sent 2 sticker things, like the glue parts, so I guess if I need to take it off and put the old one back on, I still have the ability to do that. So it's just something for me to put into my parts drawer, I guess. But here I am, I'm just trying to get the paper part off, and this is where the glue starts to move around. I wouldn't worry that much about it. Just make sure it's flat. That way it sits flat on everything. So I just went through and leveled everything back out with my little razor blade thing here. And then once I got all this done, after a lot of meticulous work, as you can see, I was able to just put that right on to the handheld and then kind of push around all the corners and the center and everything just to make sure it is fastened correctly. And let me say, I really like the way that this faceplate turned out. It's like a polygram carbon fiber. That looks like you're looking at a kaleidoscope if you hit it from the right angle, but I just like the old modern touch it gives it. It reminds me of when they used to use like marbling and stuff. And then I added that cover, and this is the cover that I said he put Miyoo on the back of. It's a really good looking kind of overall experience. I like how it all ties together, and it feels nice. It also protects the handheld, not necessarily the faceplate, but the cover itself is a rubber finish, so it does protect the handheld from any damages when dropping it. Well, unless you drop it on the screen, I guess, which is probably what I would do, but really looks good. But now that we got that all done, I just want to go through, just double check everything because I'm a OCD perfectionist, and just make sure everything works. We'll power it on, double check to make sure that the handheld isn't worse off than it was when we started this project, and then we're going to move on to looking at Spruce 3.0, which is amazing! If you've been around this hobby for any amount of time, then you are familiar with Onion OS on the Miyoo Mini and Miyoo Mini Plus. Those devices kind of sucked before Onion OS, and we have a similar story here. Not quite as sucky at the beginning, but the A30 definitely needed some work, and a team came out with SpruceOS that is absolutely amazing and offers a lot of the same features and things that Onion OS does. And now we have SpruceOS 3.0, which really does outperform Onion in a lot of places. As you can see, they have added a ton of stuff to this build, as well as fixed a ton of bugs. I'm going to go through some of the standout features that have really set Miyoo apart in the past that are now included here on the SpruceOS 3.0 build. If you need to install it, hit that link down there. If you're just doing an update, use the update file, drop it on, click on the zip file, and download it there. Even better yet, if you don't want to do all the work, but still want to benefit from SpruceOS, I will throw a link in my thingamabob where you can pick this up with SpruceOS already pre-installed. And if you order it pre-installed, you might run into what I did, where there's already been updates, because there's been 2 updates since I actually downloaded and installed this operating system on, and then started making the video. So in my testing to making video, as you can see, I'm already doing an update. So these guys are already adding more features and fixing more bugs. Now, this isn't the most important thing we need to highlight, but I think it is important. We should go over the advanced tab that they've added to this. So instead of having applications everywhere, they actually put everything under one roof. Now, they simplified this so much that I actually got confused and spent an hour trying to figure out how to use this, so I thought I'd tell you about it. So if you read the changelog, it will tell you all these things are under the advanced tab, and I couldn't find all the things under the advanced tab. And then I figured out that if you read it, it actually tells you to use your L and R buttons in order to scroll between screens. Now, you do have access to everything from your normal applications to network type stuff. You are able to do your sync thing in here to back up your save copies and be able to play them either on your PC or another device, or just to have a backup to something that's not on the actual handheld itself. And you have access to game switcher stuff, which we will talk about later on in this video. But this game switcher on here is more intuitive than what is offered on Onion OS, and does offer a lot more customization. You do also get the option within the advanced menu to decide what apps you actually want to be able to see in your normal menus and desktop area, which is really nice as well, because again, you can be as minimalist as you want, or you can max it out and just make everything accessible without going into the advanced tab. You also no longer need a secondary app in order to change your boot logo to anything you want, whether it's your cat wearing sunglasses or your name, because we're all a little conceited in this hobby. Backing out of the advanced tab will save any changes you made. Now we'll move along to the settings tab and take a look at some of the things they've added, including some new themes, obviously, to match Spruce 3.0, or just Spruce in general. The Spruce theme is the one that I'm using. It is a very clean theme, but there are plenty of custom themes out there, and more coming out every day, and you are able to download those at your will. I'm going to show you one of these themes right now, just so that we can get a look at it and just see what the options kind of might look like. Again, this is a very basic theme. I'm not a MinUI user, but for some reason in Spruce, I do like the minimalist kind of approach to it, and I think that's because it still allows you to play the systems that you want to and does not hamstring you to the minimalist systems that are offered through MinUI. Don't get me wrong, that is a great operating system, but it really doesn't touch what we have going on here. And if you do find yourself being a MinUI fanboy or girl, there is actually the option to run a MinUI theme on here, so you'll feel right at home. This also does give you the mix and match option with themes in order to add your own icons or other icons to specific or other themes. So in other words, you can mix and match the themes to make it look like you want, which is what I was just showing. A different icon pack within a different theme. Yep, I sure just overcomplicated that. Well, just once you play with it, it's pretty easy, I promise. This does have a pretty intuitive sleep timer that works really well, other than the fact that the actual setting of the time does not work correctly. It doesn't matter if you're trying to put the time up or down. As you can see, it actually will just go forward, but it does circle back around to 0. We are able to do hardware tests within Spruce to test all your buttons and everything, and yes, this does even include the joystick, so they added that. Though it is located in a separate part of the test, it does help you with calibration of that joystick if you're having problems. It is a Switch-style joystick, so it should be pretty much prone to stick drift at some point in time, and because you are putting it in and out of your pocket, it probably will get that earlier, and this way you can try to calibrate and fix that. The next thing I thought it was important to touch on is the Wi-Fi. So unlike most handhelds, or not most, but a lot of handhelds that are running Linux, you can actually save multiple Wi-Fi networks within this device, so if you go to the same places more than once, you don't have to search down and put in new code, and or you don't have to worry about it connecting to the internet because it's already going to be connected. Speaking of search, the search feature now is more intuitive and does a better job of picking the name across multiple platforms if there is something that you are looking to play. As this example, I looked at Crash, and we found all the different Crash games across all the different systems that are offered on the handheld, and then you just have to choose which one you suck less at so that you feel better about yourself when you're playing some Crash. If you want to jump on PSP through PPSSPP after you're done playing Crash, you will notice that there is a change to the underclock setting, and they've also disabled anisotropy filtering to improve performance, and it is definitely noticeable. at least in some instances. And what is probably the most important feature of all of SpruceOS 3.0, which is a carryover from Onion, though this has been actually improved upon, which I didn't think was possible, is Game Switcher. This will allow you to bounce back and forth between games by holding the home button for about a second, and it does start you right where you left off in the game last time you were playing it. So if you decide you want to play a different game, you don't even have to worry about trying to get back to where you were or figure that out or load up your game. It will just put you right back in the action. Somehow, the Miyoo A30 has become one of the best pocketable handhelds here in 2024. Didn't see that coming, especially after the release, but all Miyoo's kind of go through this really weird transitional period where they walk awkwardly at the beginning before they can run. And now, thanks to Spruce 3.0, this can sprint. Spruce isn't perfect, but it's damn near there, which is phenomenal. This handheld just continues to get better. If there's anything else you'd like to learn about Spruce, the A30, or anything else in this line, please leave it down in the comment section down below. But that's all I got for you today. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share this video with your friends because sharing is caring. It also helps grow the channel, and I do appreciate when you guys share, and we do grow in our community here. It's pretty freaking awesome. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye!